Mariah Johnson's body ached from the waist down, the kind of ache that doesn't go away with painkillers or a hot bath. It was the ache of generations of her mother, who cleaned schools until her knuckles cracked, and her grandmother, who worked the same hotel Mariah now did, scrubbing bathrooms with bleach until her skin burned. At 36, Mariah was raising her 6-year-old daughter alone after her ex walked out. She worked double shifts at the prestigious Kingsdale Grand Hotel, where marble floors sparkled under crystal chandeliers, but where she was invisible. Just another black woman in a uniform. Just another tired cleaner in silence. That night, she had made it through 14 suites. Suite 1502 was the last, the VIP penthouse. Rumor was it was reserved for royalty or billionaires flying in for secret meetings. Mariah walked in with her cleaning cart, her limbs trembling with exhaustion. The scent of lavender and leather hung in the air. The room looked untouched, pristine. A massive California king bed, draped in ivory linens, stood in the middle like a cloud. Mariah blinked. She hadn't sat down all day, just a few minutes, she told herself. So she slipped off her shoes and lay on the edge of the bed just for a moment, and then darkness. Jasper Whitmore wasn't known for surprises. A tech mogul worth $4.7 billion. He was the kind of man whose staff always prepared things ahead of time. His favorite scotch, his tailored shirts, his schedule down to the minute. But tonight, after canceling a conference appearance in D.C., he flew in early without alerting anyone. He stepped into Suite 1502 at 2:04 a.m., loosening his tie. Silence. But as he approached the bedroom, his steps stopped. There, asleep in his bed, curled up like a child, was a woman. Not just any woman. She wore a faded cleaning uniform. Her shoes were off. Her head rested gently on the silk pillows. Jasper's first instinct was confusion, followed by frustration. Was this some kind of security breach? But then he saw the exhaustion on her face. The way her fingers were still clutched around a small towel. She wasn't a thief. She was just tired. He stood there, unsure what to do, until her eyes fluttered open. Mariah gasped as soon as she saw him. She leaped up, mortified, words falling from her mouth like broken glass. I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't mean to. Just... Her face flushed with panic. She had ruined everything. Her job, her reputation, maybe even her freedom. What would people think? A poor black woman found in a billionaire's bed. Jasper held up a hand. Wait. He watched her, really looked at her, not just as a cleaner, not as a trespasser, but as a human being. You're exhausted, he said quietly. Mariah couldn't speak. Tears threatened to spill. I work double shifts, she whispered. My daughter's special needs, and I must have fallen asleep by accident. Please don't report me. Jasper stared at her, the kind of silence that carries weight. I'm not going to report you, he said finally. What's your name? Mariah Johnson. He nodded. Mariah, go home, get some sleep. The next morning, Mariah feared the worst. Her supervisor called her into the office. She braced for termination. But instead, she was handed a phone. Someone wants to speak to you, her supervisor said, confused. Mariah, came Jasper's voice on the other line. I want to invite you to breakfast with me tomorrow morning at the rooftop restaurant. Mariah almost dropped the phone. Because last night showed me something. And I don't believe in accidents. At first, she thought it was a joke. But the next morning, she stood at the rooftop entrance, her best thrifted blouse, and the same worn shoes. Jasper stood there in a crisp suit, smiling gently. They talked for hours. about life, about the broken systems, about her daughter, Nova, who loved space documentaries, about his mother, who was once a waitress and died before seeing her son succeed. You know, he said, people assume money makes you better. But all it does is give you options. You've survived without any. He offered her something that stunned her silent. I want you to work for me. Not as a cleaner, but as head of residential hospitality at my new downtown luxury building. I'll provide the training, full benefits, daycare support for Nova, and transportation. Your grit is what I need on my team. Mariah choked back emotion. But why me? Jasper looked her in the eye. Because you fell asleep in my bed and, instead of firing you, I saw something this world often forgets. You're not just tired. You're overworked, overlooked, and yet you're still standing. 6 months later, Mariah walked through the gleaming glass lobby of the Whitmore Residences, a name that now meant hope instead of fear. She wore a tailored navy suit, her ID badge proudly pinned to her lapel. People stood when she entered meetings. She was respected, heard, and most importantly, Nova, her daughter, was thriving. She had a speech therapist, weekend classes, and a safe home with a view of the sky she adored. Jasper didn't flaunt what he'd done. He never asked for public thanks. He simply showed up, offering silent but powerful support. One day, at a company event, a guest asked Mariah how she got here. She smiled softly, remembering that marble room, that night, that moment of collapse. I accidentally fell asleep in a billionaire's bed, she said, laughter in her voice. But what changed my life wasn't the bed, it was being seen for the first time.